Good afternoon and welcome to Pan-African News on Pan-African Television with me, Mordia Anane, Nartey. We stream live on Facebook at Pan-African Television, and also a very good afternoon to our 46 African countries watching us from far and near. We say a very big thank you to you. Coming up, business operators and drivers at the Tema Industrial Enclave are blaming government for the bad state of road network in the enclave. They have called for prompt action to address the situation. The Sunona Sogli Power Plant have called on government to lift the ban on the power producers agreement to offer opportunities for other sources of energy, including renewable energy. Traders at Domi Market accuse the Ghana East Municipal Assembly of corrupt practice in the sale of stalls at the market. In business, energy experts have called on government to revisit its stance on excess power said to be produced by independent power producers. This and many other stories, including sports, international from our international partners, People's Dispatch, and entertainment coming up in the next 1 hour. Second stay. And to our very first story, the National Council for Curriculum Assessment has ordered the withdrawal of all unapproved textbooks on both public and private schools nationwide. This was after content of some textbooks by Bedouin Cancer and Ochibefi Alexander titled History of Ghana and Golden English respectively, which contain offensive and incendiary statements, were circulated on social media. It follows a public uproar on social media from members of the Ewe ethnic group after portions of some textbooks went viral over the weekend. The learning material in question are History of Ghana and Golden English written by Bedouin Cancer and Ochibefi Alexander respectively, which some legislators and Ghanaians have described as offensive, divisive and incendiary to persons coming from the Volta region. Due to this development, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA, has ordered the withdrawal of all unapproved textbooks from both public and private schools in the country. NACA is also warning all publishing houses who have published unapproved offensive books to withdraw all stock from the market immediately or face the full rigors of the law. The Volta MP's caucus in Parliament has also condemned what is described as ethnocentric textbooks aimed at reintroducing a discredited prehistoric mindset of tribal bigotry to the young people of the 21st century of Ghana. In a statement signed by the chairman of the Volta MP's caucus, Yumano Kwesi Bedzra, said that the Class 3 History of Ghana textbook by Bedouin Cancer publication is part of a calculated attempt by some persons to denigrate, indoctrinate and poison the mindset of young people against the Ewe people of Ghana, describing the book's content as distasteful and most reprehensible. Bezra opined that this is yet another calculated attempt to single out a particular group of the larger Ghanaian populace for ridicule and derision. Meanwhile, the Bedouin Cancer publication, whose textbooks are part of the publication involved in the saga, has in the press statements issued an apology to the general public, revealing that the books had not been wholly approved by NACA and the leaks to the public were due to a review. They are therefore calling samples of the books from the market and will ensure that changes are effected to the contents of the book to ensure they meet NACA's requirement. So I've been joined on phone. I have Edem Agbana, Deputy National Youth Organizer, NDC, and he is speaking as a concerned Votarian. Hello, Edem. Hello, Edem.
Yeah, hello. If you can speak a bit louder.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so welcome to Pan-African News, sir.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers.
Okay, thank you very much. So concerning the brouhaha about the incendiary words against the textbook brought by Ochebefi Alexander and Bedouin Cancer, saying other stuffs or words which went against the other ethnic groups, which they didn't take slightly. So as a concerned Voltarian, how did this issue affected you?
Well, thank you very much. I think that about last 3 years, the government announced their intention to embark on a revision of the curriculum. To make a long story short.
And then can you also speak louder and position yourself very well?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. I'm saying that after the revision of the new syllabus,
okay,
some textbooks found their way into the market containing some very harmful content for our children. As a concerned Voltarian, I am outraged at the deliberate attempt to discuss the history of the other people and deliberate attempt to show some narrative about Everett in the book that we have seen. Very unfortunate sacrilegious attempt to shape the narrative of young people with this distorted history. But let me be quick to say that the fight is not limited to what they have written about the heavens. It is also about what they have written about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president. It is also about the fact that in their attempt to destroy the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and elevate some people who are affiliated to this government or who are affiliated to the NPP tradition, they are feeding our children with stuff, knowledge that is not factual. Back to some of the publications. One, NACA cannot tell us that they are not aware of these books in the market. That will be a blatant lie. We have intercepted a letter from NACA to Bedouin Cancer, for example, in September 2020, giving them pre-approval of their book, okaying or validating the technical and content requirements in that book. So the government cannot claim or feign ignorance on this matter. They have failed. They ought to have held the people responsible, and they have failed to do so. How on earth do you write a book where you write this vile propaganda against particular ethnic groups? Writing things like all others live in villages. Writing things like others worship voodoo or have voodoo as their traditional belief. Writing things like all others are inward looking in these books. These things are part of a very, very deliberate attempt by the government at some particular ethnic group. And we will resist this and make sure that our history is not distorted and our children are not fed with this toxic substance of the book.
Okay, Adam, NACA, which is the National Council for Curriculum Assessment, they've actually withdrawn the book, the textbook. So how do you feel about that? Or are you still going to take up some actions against them?
It's not enough to just withdraw the book.
So what do you intend them to do? What do you expect them to do?
They must sanction appropriately all the publishers who were engaged in this unwholesome tribal bigotry. They must be sanctioned. they must also ensure that we are made aware of the content of the books that are the alternative to the ones that they are withdrawing. We want to know what is contained in those books. We want sanctions to be applied to the publishers who are engaged in that exercise. That is the only way we can see a clear commitment from NACA. Simply withdrawing the book is not enough. Imagine a drug manufacturing company without the approval of FDA decides to embark on distributing drugs that are not approved by FDA. Will the withdrawal of the drug be enough or punishment to be meted up to these people? These are the main questions that we are raising, and we want them to provide answers.
Okay. Thank you very much, Adam Agbana. Thank you for your submission. So that was Deputy National Youth Organizer, NDC, speaking as a concerned Voltarian. Now let's move on to the road stretching from Tema Oil Refinery to Kpong community serves as a link road to several industries in that enclave. However, the stretch has been in a deplorable state for more decades, with several broken promises by successive government to have the road constructed. In the following report, Joy Linda Laye takes a look at the economic effect on the stretch. My oil refinery, which is Ghana's only refinery, was established in 1963 to enhance the country's economy, investment and development program. The refinery, which is situated in Tema, about 24 kilometers east of the capital Accra, for several years now has been in distress with accompanying deplorable roads. The area referred to as the Tema Industrial Enclave has one of the most deplorable road network in the country. The situation has badly affected business operations. The area is noted to house several oil and gas marketing companies, but the nature of the road, according to these companies, pose serious threat. Drivers who ply the road are livid about the deplorable nature of the road and blamed government for failing promises to have the road fixed.
Oh, I saw a bad I saw young as I saw far difficult. And I can't any potholes in Quana Quans. The mama shock and near casting in the say, today be a complaint as a Ombashena Omunyama. Because you see an insurer craft, wow, shaka no cra, Ubehu say a Sonia crab.
The Mihuno is a quantity, in fact, my problem kakra fine. Because sometimes over below Dukrana, now I am meetings, you talk right there. Now I'm a sofano, I be the Opa. Now, Enson and Semo, you say, I bind the car, and who memo so more baby equine, but up to now, no, you whom be a cost to be as but.
According to some traders from the Kpong markets who ply the road, transporting foodstuffs from Tema community to other communities in Accra has become a burden.
Kpong had here, Sapan, because I only a make one the call Tema. Come to one Kodiga at the back in 10 years, and a company in so a walk quine so. They be in so to sing because of rain war hunting. It's me Nakano, and accidents. It is in case I say, Nipa eti taxi more bet me. Ekunu, see your problem pa.
It be open car crown in your car because on your castle back from Possy, craning into on foul. In Saturday, when your car knew about you are boarding because I can say a quine in Sene crap on an imim bar. Lolly a tie, Benny in your bullet, and lolly a tie. Agbon odomoja lole ba ambo ke ni bi e won chedan ni ba seshin atra driver conclo ye tama ni ba wo egbe no e wo gbe lehin.
George Nyanu is the national chairman for the Tanker Drivers Association.
I feel bebre ni I coin na say titiri every toll traffic light e ko dru boom e asifin na license office free toll eco license office eka ho na last year and vice president ebe kati sword ewo license office die no so ombe ye concrete ampa se ukọ ho a hu se omuguso eye na so omunya wieye ba titiri de biaye fa your fan no depots no wo no aye Tema Refinery, Fair Trade, Chase,
quantum eko boom eko APD Accra Prince no nyame se nka no kure na asefin ubeka se bi ahafo de omu kan Ghana fo ye de ye how ekoto omampanyin His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo enim ye de koto nenim no that was 2017 in 10 and offer Honorable Minister for Road and Highways ye papa Amwako Ata Minister maboni bi ya Honorable Amwako Ata okan hu bi ewo Nana office ewo Jubilee House and I'll catch them say asema ye kan no wati ana enti obomodi ase ekwan a ye fa so elodo no afa no ni asana fra no be feed depo akomia nia no obomodi ana o ye maye and they offer me ebe hu ye kwan na ye ka ho asem fi to ha ekobukpom there are all the depots ewo asana ye lodu petrol ekomia the whole Ghana no obi abehwe say ese and e fata na.
They are therefore calling. Still on deplorable road network, residents of Agbokobi and its environs in the Ga East Municipal Assembly are threatening a massive showdown with authority if the Ga East Municipal Assembly fails to complete construction of the Agbogba-Agbokobi road. According to residents, the bad nature of the road poses serious health threat and plea to get authorities to complete construction had fallen on deaf ear.
Stretches from Agbogba and connects Agbokobi to other parts of Ga East, including the Pantan Psychiatry Hospital. The stretch has been in a deplorable state for several years, which, according to residents, has affected socio-economic activities in the area. The road, according to residents, has become a political ballgame used to deceive residents to vote for government, but abandoned after elections.
I've been here for almost 15 years now. There is nothing happening. But about 2 years ago, that they started to clear the road, and last year that they came and then started working on the gutters. And in fact, that has been the issue. Yes, we've. I would say about 2 weeks ago, we've been to the DC's office to present a petition to her, and she has assured us that something will be done. So we are only waiting to see what will be done, and that is.
Residents say before the election period, construction of drains started at a fast pace but was abandoned after the elections, making commuting almost impossible anytime it rained.
You go to your pen on mobile. Oh, yes, no, sir. On mobile kind of mine. Yeah, normal people's no, a harmona. Yeah, you say, call me, you call me here, my. So, calling to ya. Who's the say, Ubenya big across, so, yeah, for 3 weeks now, got to budget. So, all guys will be a person, but do 1 month in a Makotoana.
Of most concern and worry to residents is the dusty nature of the road, which they say has become a nuisance and unbearable.
Enti unyama nyina workshop mu nyina de bia ye fi ye pipa hu de bia be ba bia pipa no pa na emimre nti sa ban ti a ye stress on me na ni na on be ye ma ha nye fe eya ye ti because futo ne koye huni mu koye asumu nyina enti ya de bia na wo se ye bo wa de bia na ye huni mu ni na ye we basa enti aban mu wa enso so to a nyina ye pasa chaka.
And what we are experiencing now is too much dust. If you are in the room, too much dust. Wherever you are, too much dust. So, and you know, when there is too much dust, where we might be ill, it brings a lot of problems in terms of health conditions. And so that is our problem over here.
Drivers who use the road, the bad nature of the road is affecting business and are blaming the Ga East Municipal for using the road for political gain.
7 years now, yeah. Yes. It's been for a long time. Oh, we have one of government appointees here. He's one of the gurus and MPP. He's down here. He's the one that having this contract that they are doing. That's it. In fact, the road is very bad, that one there. And even when it rains, it's difficult for us to pass here. Even especially down there, very, very difficult for us to pass here. Yeah. Oh, we are pleading the authorities to come and help us because, in fact, when it rains, to pass here is very difficult. So please, we are pleading the authorities to come and help us because we, the people who are here, we don't have the money to do the road. So we are pleading the government to come and help us.
Please, your name. The movement, you know, a hard drink, a hard drink. The cars, the obese, a quanya, or cano, we are in the shows and the man there, back off them, and the way they are in Tinankaja, and Kesraba and Sanka, or Munkosa, do Omuguswa, or Moye de Anka, or Mon Homodena, or Mu Invi.
So those were some residents of Abokobi complaining about the deplorable nature of their road and plea on authorities to complete construction. Resident and business operators along the Kwabenya ACP road have appealed to the Ghana East Municipal Assembly to get the contractor working on that stretch to water the road daily. According to them, the dusty nature of the road is posing serious health hazards, and all effort to get the construction fulfilled, his obligation had fallen on deaf ear.
The Kwabenya ACP road has been in deplorable state for so many years, causing nuisance to residents in the area. After several complaints and threats to hit the street, construction works commenced some few weeks, but this has not gone down well with the residents. The dusty nature of the road, according to residents, is causing nuisance and serious health hazard in the area.
At least in your cramp home, the goose crank a boa. Yama, why you foot through, and now who put through, why you cramp, and I say, it's yet in my China wife. It's a mention of me be my. Well, I think I once be a sudden of means to be good, Sassa. Foot through, especially a carcass, yet if I cassian, or more faster than your cry. If you should bogu your sign yet. So mention you be my. And yes, I knew foot through. A hard drink, and a bogu, said I soon is to call. Then they are
For some residents, the Member of Parliament for the area, Adjoa Safo, has failed to live up to expectations.
By foot already a queer pa, ye Juma, foot road, the highest, ya can't. Fear and yesterday by no quite with Amukas on Bay Asana election Dubai election do you know a month on Bay just after the Omagasio after the Brianna Brenti Panachos on Bay Amufan Sumba yeah you know for ya told soon water Senebea foot on there now Jabamu Amupadi Amufan Sum and Begusu. Over Tomu Conifio Pin call. If you finish your super copy, Pino, Mufa de Bia, or in Yadi or Mumwa. So, one Unmusana, a football call Mua, Mitira Minukasa Namia.
An Okada rider who operates on the road gave a sad note about how the dust is affecting their business.
It's not good at all, and we are suffering here too. Even though, let's say, we are working here, look at the bike. When we carry somebody from here to my lord, even in and out, look at the way my dress is. It's dirty, and the road is very bad. It's not helping us at all. It's very bad. Once. They have not been coming like more times. As you can see, the road is full of dust, going up and down. When I close from work like this, I get this thing. I've been facing more dust in my nose than things, and it's not good to be there. So we are trying whether the government will try to help us to
complete the road for us.
Some drivers said they sometimes purchase water to spray the road to prevent the flow of dust.
For the dust issue, we are really facing a lot of challenges. You can see we have food vendors around and other traders around, and this is where most of us come for our breakfast, because due to the nature of our job, we leave home very early, sometimes in the night. So before the morning comes, this is where we take our breakfast, this is where we take our lunch. As you can see, we are all drivers.
Well, let me move you to Ashiaman, where tragedy is looming at the overhead that links Tema Community 1 to Ashiaman. The overhead has developed gaping cracks, posing serious threat to drivers and pedestrians.
Overhead also serve as footbridge for the people in the community and its environs. Its metal railings had become rusted and weak, with the iron rods used in constructing the bridge becoming exposed. When Pan-African Television visited the site, we observed a serious structural defect of the overpass. It was noticed, however, that not only has the overhead developed serious cracks, and there are also gaping holes on the concrete, with the rusty nuts begging to be replaced. These developed wide cracks are putting the lives of hundreds of people who use it daily in danger.
Away from that, traders at Dome Market, a busy commercial hub in the Ga East Municipal Assembly, are angry over decision by the Assembly to lease stalls in the facility to unknown people. The traders are causing the Ga East Municipal Assembly of double standard and corruption practice, and are threatening to cause mayhem at the market, including demonstration, if the Ga East Municipal Assembly do not reserve a decision. Activities of Dome Kwabenya and other surrounding communities. The redevelopment of the Dome Market was ushered in by the government in 2019, following a promise made by President Akufo-Addo to the market women. Government had indicated the fund had been secured for the project. Traders were not expected to pay for stalls after completion of the project. However, according to the traders, the Ga East Municipal Assembly has given indication the stalls would be sold to interested traders. This has generated some tension amongst the traders and are blaming the Ga East Municipal Assembly of double standard and exploitation.
Abonti amba so baja pata min bebre bi mo on baja pata ni wia otimi jai na obetre kwa na kwa no je titi se me wo inside no motu eyu ba o min so bi so pata wo tu abetra na sa pata da ho no so obetimi di ma han se woni ho o fie ba pata so do enya ni sa pata de me nya sure se o meton amaye mum e committee e chodu so 132 cd ba MP no so be si apata na ma so no mu cd aton ma em ga so mu si store no after say omo de mu say entretrem stores ni say ni na omo mo bi no ma je store my any be the tete abate e wi anyo aje store.
According to the traders, they had hoped that since they cannot afford for the bigger stores, the stalls should be given to them and not leased out to unknown people without their knowledge after they were asked to relocate for the reconstruction of the market. A victim of those asked to relocate, Jonathan Sa blamed the authorities for failing them despite making numerous promises.
Yesterday, no, say 1 year wakan or my 6 months. But they say, Namia don't 1 year back. It's in your can yesterday. So I'm back on my Mayana, a patani baby now, or Munya baby intra. O Quatana Hani, yes, too, which I see too. It's yesterday, say, one on Bashan, or Monsieur no Munya Maya, the young one Quatanaho. Na sunjembla na yenyira yo mamba yenyira etu atas sesi e ba betwa me take it 1 cedi debi etu take it 1 cedi na anya ba bi ntra obede na wetu take it.
Other traders blame the Member of Parliament for Dome Kwabenya Adjosafo for worsening their plight.
Yetimu na mo be chro say wan mu na ewo ho no mu chro yedin yetiye but say ye wo mu na mu chro yedin say bibi ni a na mo aka kire say wo say ni say ena ekoso but mo anka hwe ya be some so mo an country e wo mo na mo be ka kire say apata no na ye team no omo aton so far as we so a wo nya wie nti say we wie a eno ne say ye be ko nti say wo yi mi free na we wu wie a ena alota ne baba mu
ye fa me Florence me ka say free domain market am say me re atwa mu kakra ko be 2 years ni ye demonstration bi for shares na omu si amaye wodwom ha no MC ne say 75 million enti amaye demonstration afa ho ma MP Bemu ebe ka kire yese o si Ghana ma ye free enti de na contractor na start no ye hu se aban no atua se sika na ma contractor no efe de yete ye ne se aban na ntumi antua se sika na ma contractor no enti omo ton no mu de atua omo sika enu nti no de yete no hu ne se omo fa ase de omo si awie no omo ton no 2000 e de ama wo mo enu nti ama koye nsem bebre e wo dwom ha no sei wuti won ma na obi aba sei na ekọ wuti wan na obi aba sei na ekọ ye de meba bi nso abegu akira ha wa meba ne bigu wani mu bia ye je 100 cedis enu nti no akoye nsem bebre enu nti no ye sre aban mu mpanifo ani president a oma MP ba yi se o si Ghana de ache ye free no ye busa se wanya ntua dwane ka amaya na se wantua dwane ka amaya de ya ne yate asese nya ban no na esiga no ama ye free na sisi ano edwan me fisa nke ye si wi a ye ready sai nti nke ye wie no wohima bia ne ma modie nie na maje na makwa akwatenam we de ye nsi dwane nwie de hu ane se dwa no o ma fase a wo moton.
The traders want the government to live by its word and ensure the sustenance of livelihoods at the markets. The traders were threatening a series of action, including protests at the market, to defend their rights. From Domikwabenya, Priscilla Sa report for Pan-African Television News. Now moving to the energy sector, Chinese energy giant Shenzhen Energy Company Group Limited has selected Ghana as its gateway to the African energy market. And this follows the successful story of Sunona Sogli Power Ghana Limited in becoming a reliable terminal plant for the future prospect in renewable energy in Ghana. David Atto attended a meeting briefing at the facility and has more to the following report.
Sogli Power Ghana Limited is the first successful independent power producer in Ghana to invest, construct and operate an efficient combined cycle natural gas power plant with installed capacity of 560 megawatts. Phase 1 of the plant with a capacity of 200 megawatts was completed in 2010, with Phase 2 with 360 megawatts completed in 2017. The plant built without any government guarantee is the most competitive tariff power plant in Ghana and contributes 15% to total national power supply, making it the most reliable thermal plant in the sub-region.
As the first IPP, we set the pace for stronger energy industry. We developed our 560 megawatts power plant in 2 phases. Many parts of the world still face power supply deficits and are eager for alternative solutions to fossil fuels to ensure energy security. We want to ensure Ghana is not left behind. Our new Africa Development Unit is spearheading the renewable energy projects. Our vision is to power development with a renewable energy. Just over there, power development with renewable energy. Starting with wind farm and waste to energy and solar. Recently, we added 800 kilowatts hour capacity solar panel for our internal use. We are not only focusing on Ghana, but working on expanding on Africa.
According to the company, it plans to venture into renewable energy including wind power, solar, solid waste incineration and hydropower to Ghana and across the sub-region.
So right now the demand is around 3,000
installed capacity, just like I said, access power, installed capacity. Right now, installed capacity around 5,000. However, because of the you need a backup, and you need some of unreliable power plant. So right now, the highest maybe 4,000. Only 4,000 you can reach. So if suppose next 3 years, since all keep similar with the last 3 years, 10% increase. After 3 years, you will reach 4,000 megawatts. That's the only power you have. If that time you have an energy crisis, you ask for power, there's no. It takes time. Just like phase 3 in the power plant, we will finish our feasibility study by the end of this year. If we start with construction next year, middle of next year, it will be put into service 3 years later.
This is the business news. They can stay. Now, some concerned independent power powers have called on government to lift the ban on the power producers agreement to enable more investment in the energy sector. Chairman of the Sunan Asogli plant, the Sunan Asogli power plant, Yang King, believes the removal of the ban will offer opportunity in other sources of the power, including renewable energy.
Around 3,000. Installed capacity, just like I said, access power, installed capacity. Right now, installed capacity around 5,000. However, because of the you need a backup, and you need some of unreliable power plant. So right now, the highest maybe 4,000. Only 4,000 you can reach. So if suppose next 3 years, since all keep similar with the last 3 years, 10% increase. After 3 years, you will reach 4,000 megawatts. That's the only power you have. If that time you have an energy crisis, you ask for power, there's no. It takes time. Just like phase 3 in the power plant, we will finish our feasibility study by the end of this year. If we start with construction next year, middle of next year, it will be put into service 3 years later. So you need to prepare in advance. Otherwise, just if you have an energy crisis, just like you before, not 4 years or 5 years before, you don't have choice. You only sign the very most expensive PPA with others. That's the only choice. You don't have, because nobody, just like I don't want to name the IPP, the ship. You don't have choice. You just sign the most expensive PPA with them because you don't have. So everything you need to prepare in advance with the renewable energy, with the phase 3, with something in advance. With the, we will present all the idea with the new minister of energy about this, what we want to do. That's you prepare in advance. You get cheapest power for Ghana.
That story was filed by my colleague and Deputy Head of News, David Ato Tukuno. Away from that, moving on to taxes on fuel products. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, has urged Parliament to kick against the government's plan to introduce sanitation and pollution levy, which will charge 10 pesewa per litre of fuel or diesel. The Executive Secretary of COPEC, Duncan Amwa, said Ghanaians were already paying too much for petroleum products and should not be overburdened with new fuel taxes. According to him, Ghana was losing 1.9 billion Ghana cedis annually through fuel smuggling because of loopholes in the petroleum value chain, and urged the government to plug those loopholes rather than introduce new fuel taxes. He said fuel prices had increased by 17% over the past 2 months, from 4.7 Ghana cedis per litre to 5.45 Ghana cedis, but pleaded with government to put the necessary measures in place to ensure that Tema Oil Refinery functioned effectively so that petroleum product could be processed locally, which will go a long way to reduce the cost of fuel in the country. The COPEC boss also called for a review of the price stabilization and recovery levy, since the purpose for its introduction was not being adhered to by government. Meanwhile, Nana Amwesi VII, the executive director of the Institute of Energy Security, has said 50% of the prices of fuel were made up of taxes. He said if the current increase in petroleum products continued, Ghanaians will be paying 40 Ghana cedis per gallon of petrol by 2024. During the presentation of the 2021 budget statement to Parliament, Lawrence Osei Mensah Bonsu, the caretaker finance minister and minister of parliamentary affairs, announced government's intention to charge 10 pesewa on a litre of petrol or diesel to manage sanitation and pollution challenges in the country. Up next is international news from my international partners, People's Dispatch. In India, the labor of millions of women domestic workers is not recognized, depriving them of labor rights, formal terms of employment, and respect. Official government records estimate a conservative figure of 3.9 million domestic workers in the country, 2.6 million of whom are women. A report in the Economic and Political Weekly, however, put the number of domestic workers much higher at more than 50 million domestic workers, with women making up more than 75% of the workforce in this sector.
Bangalore, which is the capital of India's southern state of Karnataka, has an estimated 400,000 domestic workers. They constitute a large proportion of the city's workforce, and yet they still lack fundamental rights, a fact that has become even more apparent since the start of the pandemic. In this sense, it's not surprising that the life of a domestic worker is not an easy one, with or without a hovering pandemic. Kajita, 28, and Noor, 45, are migrant workers from West Bengal. Living 2,000 kilometers away from home, they dwell in a slum in East Bangalore's Thabahali area, hidden by the rising apartment in an upscale locality that connects the two major IT centers, Marathahali and Whitefield. India's migrant workers who move from rural to urban areas in search of gainful employment take a big share of the burden of household income onto their shoulders. Most of them send a major part of their income to their families in the villages for their sustenance. They live in cramped shanties of tarpaulins and tents in a sprawling city of soaring expenses and expense. Before the countrywide lockdown was announced in March 2020, Kajita would start her day at 4:45 a.m. and return home after 9 p.m. She would work for more than 15 hours a day in 10 households. Noor would go to work at 5:45 a.m. and return around 6:30 p.m. She used to work in 4 households, 8 hours in one household, and then dividing the rest of her time working in other houses. Their work includes, but is not limited to, sweeping, cleaning, cooking, washing dishes and clothes, and child and elderly care. While they take the heavy burden of physical work, their work is far from being recognized. The household chores have been historically seen as tasks that women are supposed to perform without asking for any remuneration. The United Nations highlighted the lack of public acceptance to consider a household as a place of work, resulting in non-recognition of women's labor at a household as work. The UN also points out that India lacks comprehensive national legislation that would guarantee formal terms of employment, including minimum wage and decent working conditions to the domestic workers. They are often left at the mercy of the employers without having access to any social and economic benefit from the state. Speaking up about their day-to-day exploitations often could mean threats, intimidation and violence, weekly days off, time off for holidays, or annual paid leave is a privilege most domestic workers are deprived of. Instead, in many cases, during the festival days, their work increases exponentially. Kajita and Noor's income comes from their devalued hard physical labor. Their income was just about enough to support themselves and their families before the announcement of a lockdown in India. While a younger worker like Kajita might take up work in about a dozen houses to supplement her income, older workers like Noor typically take up an 8-hour or 12-hour job with one household and try to earn a major part of their income from there. The income they earned throughout a decade of work as domestic workers was neither sufficient to uplift their standard of living, nor could it ensure them a healthy and safe stay at home during the pandemic. Once the lockdown began in India, Kajita and Noor and the other domestic workers found themselves without work for more than 4 months. One of Kajita's employers paid her the first 2 months of a salary during the initial phase of a lockdown, while the others refused to pay her during the lockdown. She lost around 90% of her monthly income for several months. Noor was paid half the amount of her salary for the first 2 months of the lockdown. Kajita now earns 7,000 rounds, $96 per month, a sharp decline in her income by more than 70% from 30,000 rounds, $413 a month that she earned before the lockdown. Noor earns 11,500 rounds, $158. Her salary declined by almost 50% from 20,000 rounds, $275 a month. The household expenditure, however, did not fall with a falling income. It, in fact, increased compared to the proportion of income. Kajita and Noor each had to pay 2,500 rounds, $34 as the rent for their shanties and electricity bills, even during the lockdown. They still had to buy 20-liter can of drinking water for 25 rounds, $0.34, in the absence of access to clean drinking water in the slum area where they live along with their essential items. Noor told me in October 2020 what we received as a food kit from some organizations such as the Center of Indian Trade Unions and Bharat Jan Vijan Samiti. For 1 month, we survived on it. For more than 2 months since the lockdown, our life has changed. We have no income, but we continue to spend, Kajita said. We, Kajita's younger brother and sister, shared one meal 3 times a day. We have never seen this kind of misery earlier. Challenges in their lives escalated by the pandemic only reveal the grim picture about the conditions of India's vast section of domestic workers. With a pandemic and lockdown, they lost their jobs. A battle for economic rights is a far-fetched dream if social rights are not ensured simultaneously. The stories of domestic workers like Meena, name changed, and Neelam, name change, speak of a cruelty involved in the lives of these workers. They have little dignity and respect and are often subjected to violence. Selvi, the General Secretary of the Domestic Workers Union in Bangalore, affiliated with the Center of Indian Trade Unions, began her journey of working with domestic workers in 2012. In her experience, the most common threat of violence surfaces when a domestic worker asks for a hike in wage or refuses to perform tasks other than the ones agreed in verbal negotiations at the time of joining, or when a worker resists sexual abuse by the male employer.
intimidated by the threat that an employer could file a theft report with the police against them, even if they are innocent. Most domestic workers tend to suppress their voice. They fear job loss, they fear actions on them or their families by employers. Therefore, in most cases, they avoid registering any complaint. Selvi told me about the case of Mina, who was employed by a man in North Bangalore. She said the employer used to torture and sexually assault her. When she opposed, the employer beat her. Her body was marked with burnt wounds of cigarette, backstabbing. He used to torture her so much that she had to be finally hospitalized. In another case, in Northern Bangalore, she told me the employers filed a police complaint against the worker, Nilam, alleging theft. She was innocent. The complaint was an insult for her. She could not take the blame and she attempted suicide, said Selvi. With the intervention of the union, both Mina and Nilam were rescued. Selvi emphasized, in these situations, organizations like All India Democratic Women's Association play an important role in giving confidence to the victim and motivating her to register a complaint. The continual battle by unions and organizations to safeguard the rights and lives of domestic workers has pushed the central government to at least introduce the Domestic Workers Regulation of Work and Social Security Bill 2017. The formation of a national policy for safeguarding the interests of domestic workers has been pending for several years. However, the challenges in their lives are not pending. They do not vanish with or without a pandemic. Not only their labor unseen, but they are also seen as less human. This mindset and the inhuman practices need an upfront battle with an organized struggle of domestic workers set to resolve their everyday distress and to advance their social lives.
Up next is sports. Exactly 42 years today, Ghana won her third Nations Cup after beating Uganda by 2 unreplied goals in the final played at the Accra Sports Stadium. Opoku Efriye of blessed memory scored in both halves as the Black Stars clinched the Abdulaziz Abdullahi Salem Trophy after earlier success in 1963 and 1965.
Black Stars, captained by Emmanuel Awulikwe, beamed with confidence and understandable optimism as they outplayed, outclassed, outran and cruised to victory over Uganda, won the Sekafa Cup in 1973 and 1977. The team, which finished as runners-up in 1968 and 1970, was handled by Fred Osamdudu of blessed memory. Opoku Efriye's brace in the 38th and 64th minutes gifted Ghana the Golden Fleece after 90 minutes of scintillating action.
Wrapping up with the entertainment news, the name Damba is giving to a very popular dance for the Dagomba royalty that almost certainly predates the introduction of Islam into the kingdom. We focus on the Damba dance, which is essentially ritual in character as part of our Independence Month celebration.
Damba, which means that will come together in the Dagbani tribal language, is translated to Damma in the Mamprusi tribal language and Jingbenti in the Wali tribal language. The Damba dance is commended among the chiefs and people groups of Nalerigu and Tamale in the northern area of Ghana, just as among the chiefs and people groups of Wa in the Upper West District of Ghana. Men in large traditional smocks do the Damba dance by often spinning their attire while making rhythmic steps to the sound of the gong. The musical structure of the Damba dance is often similar to the richly polyrhythmic styles of the people to the south of Dagomba land. Damba dance drumming has compelling themes that are like hooks in global pop music. The tradition can be appreciated simply as terrific music, but it also has immediate links to Dagomba culture. Notably, all the drumming and dance steps have meanings in the local language Dagbani. Each piece is linked to an historical personage from Dagomba history. The dance is often performed on traditional occasions such as the celebration of the Damba festival, enskinment of chiefs, funerals, and weddings.
So this is how we part ways this afternoon. My name is Anane. Nartey. A recap of the headline. Business operators and drivers at the Tema Industrial Enclave are blaming government for the bad state of road network in the enclave. They have called for prompt action to address the situation. The Sunon Asogli Power Plant have called on government to lift the ban on the power producers agreement to offer opportunity for other sources of energy, including renewable energy. Traders at Dome Market accused the Ghana East Municipal Assembly of corrupt practice in the sale of stalls at the market. And in business, energy experts have called on government to revisit its stance on excess power said to be produced by the independent power producers. Once again, thanks for your time. My name is Anane. Nartey. Do also follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram at Pan African Television. Do have a good afternoon.